feel free to comment if the sound is off or anything, because that happens sometimes. And cheers and welcome to the stream. If you don't run ads, you'll probably be watching me right now. So, I see a picture. Hi, Fire Raven. So long ago. Yeah, I know. Today I am, as advertised, going to be streaming some game development basics, and the two programs that I focused on that I'm going to work with is Gamemaker. Gamemaker is part of a family of tools that you use for making games if you aren't that strong in coding, or if you just want to work with something where a lot of the things have already been preset for you. You can also do the coding yourself, but in the beginning, why am I choosing Gamemaker? I'm choosing Gamemaker for several reasons. One reason is, of course, that it's the one I'm used to working with, but it's been several years since I've been working with it. But one of the main reasons is that right now Gamemaker is on Humble Bundle, and that means that you can actually get the Pro edition for whatever you want to pay. And if you want to work with the extensions that you can get for programming HTML code to make games for browsers or make games for Android, if you pay $15, you get every expansion that they have for Gamemaker, and that should give you all the tools you need. Gamemaker is the program that I have up on screen right now. As you can see, there is pre-made folders when you start out, so you don't have to worry about structuring everything yourself, which is a really nice feature. I'm pretty sure it's the same way in the other tools you can get, like for instance RPG Maker. I've just never worked with RPG Maker, and as the name says, RPG Maker was made especially to make sure if you want to make RPG games, everything is set up for you. Oh, thank you for the host, Toadcoder. Yeah, it's pretty powerful. Gamemaker is an awesome tool, and you can do things with all the preset options, or you can do your own coding. I'd recommend that in time you do your own coding. Hi Jababab, welcome. So to start out, I'm going to talk a little bit about what is game development and game design. And it's a pretty big subject, so I'm going to try to keep it simple. It has a lot in common with if you work with other kinds of media, like if you're working with movies or plays or books or articles. There are different genres. And the genre that I've chosen for this first game that we're going to play around with is a platform game, because platform games are very popular. You can say that the basic coding in it is pretty simple, but you can do a lot of variety on the theme. I haven't got a platform game to show you. I'm gonna do everything from scratch so you can follow the process. One of the first things to think about is, as I said, genres. Choose a genre. Decide whether you're making an RPG. Oh, cats in the background. If you want to make an RPG, if you want to make a platform game, where you're going with what you're working with. And ideas can come in many different shapes and forms. Maybe you've been inspired by a game and you want to do something like that game. Exactly, Welshie. The cats are getting frisky because, well, it's a couple of hours from feeding time, so they really want attention. Where was I? Cats are a constant distraction. Well, choose your genre. As I said, I pre-chose platform games, and you can work from different ideas. I draw a lot, so one of the things that I do is I tend to make drawings, let's see here, of simple characters that could be fun to use in a game. And this is all just random scribbles that I've done. And we're gonna either choose one of those or invent a new one, and I'm gonna show you how to work with that in for animation and to doing all the stuff you need for the game as well. Gamemaker is, as I said, pre-coded to make sure that you've got all the folders that you need. And if I remove this one, delete, so we have nothing here. The thing that we look at is that there are certain things that you need for a simple game. Yeah, you can do that too, Toad Coder. And we can use several of these pre-made drawings in the game, but we have to decide which one is going to be the main character. So it's going to be the player option in the platform game. When you do the main player, what you need is to use a couple of these options here. One of the things that it needs is a sprite. And a sprite is, let's try making one here. Create sprite. You can see you get some this box up here with some different options in it. For instance, you can load a sprite if you already made one, or you can edit a sprite. When you do that, what it's really talking about is the image, the graphic, which is what most people, if they're not really used to coding, this is what they see as the character. In Gamemaker, it has part of the coding for the character in the sprite, but mainly it's the image. Hi, Searle. Oh, hi, Finley Shards. Welcome. It's Talk Like a Pirate Day. If I thought I could keep it up while talking about this, I would. In here you can see there's some predefined things that you can change, and that is like the size of the sprite. And the number that's here is talking about pixels. So it's the preset default will be a sprite that's 32 pixels wide and 32 pixels high. And there's something here that says number of sub images, and that is something we're going to go into when we talk about the animation part of it. Well, I could bring the eye patch I made for Fire Raven this weekend because I turned him into a pirate very briefly. Yeah, exactly, Finley. Pirating and computer games is two things that we usually don't want to talk about in the same sentence because it's bad style pirating other people's computer games. So if I go in here and say I want to load a sprite, because I already made something, so let's go in here and just say load a sprite. You see some things here and a folder that says images. This folder is one I made. When I start out in Gamemaker, it's going to ask me whether or not I want to make a new game. When I make a new game, I get all these folders and basically nothing else. This is what you see here. This is the group of folders that Gamemaker will, let's go in here. This is this one called Platform Game 1 with the last name GMX. That is your Gamemaker exe file that you're working with while you're building the game. And you can see here it's already set up some folders. It's set up a folder for sprites, rooms, and objects. And as you work with these things, Gamemaker will automatically configure these folders for you and make sure that everything is put in the right place. This is a really nice thing, because if you had to write everything from scratch, you would have to go in and predefine all this stuff. Gamemaker does that for you. Sprites here, at the moment, there's a few things in because I played around with it, but let's just delete that so we have an empty folder for starters. There we go, delete those. Yes. So now what I have here is I've got my platform game. I've got a folder that I created called images. Inside the folder called platform, that is where I save my file to when I'm working with it. So if I close everything down here and go and say save as, you can see here it's sending it directly to this folder that I chose for it. And feel free to ask questions if there's any of this that you don't already know anything about or it becomes too confusing. So when I make a sprite, it will be put into the sprite folder in here. But to make sure when I make images that I have them somewhere around the same area so they're easy to find, I put the images in the same platform folder. So images and sprites are not the same thing. You can create the image for the sprite inside of Gamemaker, or you can use an external program, and then you can save that to images, and then you can load it into the game. So right now in images I have these two pictures. These are PNG files. I've chosen PNG because it's see-through, opaque, so or transparent. So when I have this one, only the egg in the middle, the object I made, the picture I made, will be visible. The other part of making a player character is the object. I'm just deleting stuff on the way so it doesn't get in the way. Here, if I make a new object, you get a pop-up box as well. I'm gonna go through some easy to make artwork, Finley, so just bear with me, I'll get to that as well. I'm just trying to get through an introduction of a bit of the techie stuff first. So the object, here you have the name, object 1. In this case we would call it player. And since we only have one player, player is enough. You will often do this to make sure that everything is handled properly, that if what you are working with is an object, you will name it obj_player. That way you have stated, if you have to look around in files, that this is an object. Oh, that's okay to have an opinion, bro gaming. As I said in the beginning of the stream, I've chosen Gamemaker because that's what I've worked with before, and because right now it's on Humble Bundle, so you can get it very, very cheap, the professional version, compared to what you would use otherwise. Normally you would pay like 140 euros to get the pro version. Right now it's up on Humble Bundle as a pay what you choose. And all opinions are valid. Let's make that clear right away. This type of stream, when we talk about game development, backseat gaming is allowed in chat, because we all have preferences as to how we work with things, and the way I do a code might not be the same way that someone else had success at doing a very good code for the same type of game. So when we get to those part of it, which might not be today I'm more about presenting the different tools to work with, and make sure that we get a image ready to work with as a sprite to put on our object. So OBJ player, because this is a player. You can see down here at sprite right now it says no sprite. I'm gonna let it stick like that because I can save it like this and just put in things later. Well, writing things from scratch is a very, very good way of keeping your coding skills up to date. My coding skills at the moment are a few years behind, so that's another reason to use Gamemaker. There's some different things here about the object. As you can see, there's one here that's already tagged. It's visible. If I remove this one, even if I put a sprite on my object, you won't be able to see it. This might seem a bit weird if you haven't worked with making games before, but you might need to make an object that can't be seen, but still has some functions that you need in the game. Well, the red one, whether there will be bunnies or Team Dodo versus Team Monkey, that all depends on what you help me choose as the characters for the game. I've made some ideas and we can work with some other ideas as well, if there's something in chat that's a lot better. So, I'm gonna let it be checked to visible, even though there's no sprite at the moment. There's one here that says solid. Solid is whether or not you'll crash into an object, pretty much. Persistent is whether or not this object is going to stay throughout the game. I'll talk more about persistent later. And using physics is depending on if you're making a game that need physics in it. We don't really need physics on that level at the moment, so this is just going to be simple platform gaming. There's some other things here about depth. The thing here about no parent, I'll get into parenting later, but basically it's whether or not you inherit values from another object. So and then there's something about mask that has something to do with a thing called collision, and I'll talk to you about that later as well. So right now we're just going to save it by clicking OK. We're not going to add any events. We have events here. Again, this is something we're going to need when we need the object to start doing stuff. So if we start out just making a sprite to make sure that we have one, and then we're going to paste that one onto our object. So right now there are two options, load sprite or edit sprite. If I want to load sprite, I could go in and take one of these that I've already done, but I don't want to do that now. Cancel. Instead, I'm going to go into edit sprite. Edit sprite is the built-in tool in Gamemaker to make sprites. And if I go in here, I have different options. I have new, create from file, add from file, create from strip, and add from strip. The strip part, that's when we start doing the animations, because then you're going to need more than one picture for each sprite to get movement. In the beginning, we're just going to choose new so you can see the tools. When you start a new sprite, it's going to ask you the size of the sprite, and that's going to be in pixels. So the default is going to be 32 times 32. So we can start out by doing a 32 by 32, so you can see what that means size-wise. I enlarge the image simply by holding the mouse over it and then going into edit here. I'm going to go into, let's see, where did I go? Edit, down here at the pencil, or Control E if you prefer that option. Then I get something that looks pretty much like a tiny version of Paint. I'm not sure there's that. It'll be a 0 times 0 pixel image if we are going to go by the number of Jaffa cakes left over, I think. So here I scroll by simply using the mouse wheel, holding the mouse over and scrolling. I get a size. If I choose a tool like the pencil tool and start doing that, you can see these are your single pixels. There are different tools like you will find in Paint. For instance, I can do, oh, this one wasn't the one I was looking for. So you got this one, the square tool. And then you can, for instance, take your bucket tool, choose your color and fill it in. Well, that didn't do as it was supposed to either. As you can see, I'm not really used to playing with this tool, but it's pretty darn simple. You pick your colors over here and use those for drawing. There's a lot of the basic functions, including text, if you want text. If you use text, it'll show up here. You can see this is very, very scrambled, and that has something to do with the size of the image. The larger the image, of course, the more pixels to work with and the more details you get. But the larger the image, the heavier it's going to be for the computer to handle. So if you do very simple games that doesn't have a lot of functionality in it, I'm reading chat so I get distracted a bit. Team Dodo versus Team Monkey fighting to murder the most bunnies as the bunnies have stolen the Jaffa cake and you collect Jaffa cakes as points. Well, that's actually a pretty good idea. So you could do that one. But as you see, this is just a built-in tool. There's opacity you can work with as well, blend, replace, and it's just a very simple pixel editor to work with. I'm going to close this one down. No, we're not going to save the changes to the image. It still creates a sprite up here, so you will have to delete that one if you don't want to use it. But you can really just double click on it. You will get back here and then you can just say, oh, I didn't want that. I'll just load another sprite. So let's take this one. Open. This is a sprite. This is my object. If I go into my object, I can now assign it a sprite. Every sprite I've already made up here will be on the list. So right now there's only one. I'm picking that one and I'm saying OK. That's an object and that's supposed to be the player. But you can't have a player without having a place for the player to play. And that is what this is all about, rooms. So we're going to go in here and we're going to create a room. And again, hold the mouse over and scroll and it will go up and down in size. No need for using control. Right now it's set to the width of 1024 and a height of 768. And what you have down here, speed. This is your frame rate. And at the moment the frame rate is 30. And if you leave it at 30, it might be slightly choppy when you start doing stuff. But since we're only doing still pictures at the moment, 30 is going to be fine. When we start making things move, we'll change this one up to 60 so you can see the difference between this. When I go into objects on this tab, and I go down here, it says objects to add with left mouse. And there's a tiny symbol you can click. And every object you've made, the object player here, will be on this list. So right now what I have is my object player. And to place it in the room, I just click with my left mouse, hopefully. Object player, it shows up here. I click with my left mouse, and now object player is in the room. Now it looks rather big compared to the room size. So let's just say yes, and then go back and look at the sprite and see if it's properly set. Edit sprite. It's okay. There. So here's one that says stretch. No, we don't want to use that one. Right now, the image that I loaded, it was 250 times 250 pixels. And that's because that's the size I made it when I painted it in GIMP. So if I want to change that, I could either do it small from the beginning, or I go into Edit Sprite. I go into my transforms, and I go into stretch. And then you can see here there's width, height, and then there's in percentage, and then pixels. So if I say I want to make this 124 pixels in a good quality, keep the aspect ratio to make sure that it doesn't shrink in a weird way, and I say OK, then it resizes the entire image. Say yes, and if I go back into the room now, you can see it has automatically resized it when I did the resizing in the object. So what we have right now, up here there's a green arrow, and that is the run arrow. So when I want to test anything I've done, I'm going to click this one, and it's going to show me what it's going to look like as a game. So run the game. A lot of stuff going on down here, and what I have here is my sprite on a gray background. Right now it doesn't do anything whether or not I'm gonna push any buttons, but it's there. Let's close this down again. To make it move, you have to go into the object, and there's some events you can add, and some of these events are the ones you're going to use for movement. I'm going to very shortly show you some of the preset options and what they do. So I go in here and I do a keyboard event, just to make it very simple. I click on the keyboard and then I get a lot of options. I can either choose my arrow keys up here, I can use my special keys, Control, Alt, etc. Or I can go to my keypad, my digits, my letters, my function keys, or other. In this case, I'm going to say, well, I'm a WASD player. I'm used to using W, A, S, and D when I move something around. So let's start out by saying that we're going to choose A. A is for making stuff go left. And if I press the A key, what do I want to happen? You can see over here there's a load of menus. Right now I'm in the top here in the move menu. There's several others, but in the move menu you have this one. This one simply states that if I press the A key in the event, I drag it there, and it says start moving in a direction. Then it asks me, does it apply to self, other, or object? And self means the object I'm working with, and this applies to the object I'm working with. So I'm just going to keep it there. And A means left when I play stuff, so I'm going to choose this one. And then it asks for a speed, and the speed I'm just going to put in here is very slow. I'm going to put in a 1. Then there's a tiny checkbox at the bottom that says relative. If I choose 1 relative, That means that it's gonna add to the speed with 1 as I move it with this key. So the speed is going to be accelerating. So if I just want to move it with a steady speed, I make sure that this one is not checked. So let's say OK, and OK, and run the game. Not much of a game yet, but still. Now you can see I press A on my keyboard, and very, very slowly the egg starts moving. Let's close that down again. I usually don't use these presets, and there is a reason why I don't use the presets. Reason number one is, of course, that somewhere way back when I learned how to code. But the other one is an expression called elegance in coding. And elegance in coding is about using as little coding as possible to do the things you need done. There's an expression called KISS that stands for keep it stupid simple. So everything that's reusable of your code, you should reuse. And the thing is that when you use presets in a program like this, it'll work, but you won't know exactly what kind of code is underneath this. And that makes it hard for you to know whether you can recycle the code for something else, and how tough it's going to be for your computer to run it. So right now we have there just to show. Let's just do another one so we can see add event. Let's do another keyboard. No, let's do a mouse event. If I click mouse here, I get all the options I can get from using a mouse. Left button, right button, middle button, no button, whether I pressed it, released it. As you can see, it wheel up, down, global mouse. There's a lot of different stuff to choose from. I'm just going to do a simple option where if I click with the left button, it's going to jump for a little bit. So I choose left button. You can see I get a new event here. And that's because this is not the same thing as pressing the A key, so this is different coding. So let's go in here in the move menu and see what other options do we have. Well, we have a jump option here. This jump option, if I use this one, again, it's going to ask you, does it apply to self, other, or object? I choose that it applies to self because it applies to the stuff I'm working with right now, my player character. And what I want to happen when I click it with the left button is I want it to move. I want it to jump 10 pixels on the x-axis and 10 pixels on the y-axis. Very simple. Let's say OK for that. You can see now it made it into jump to position. So OK to that, and let's start running the game. I have my egg here now. I'm going to click on it with the left mouse button. There it went. Oh, it's because I didn't make it relative. Let's see. It just jumped to 10, 10,10 in the XY system instead. So let's go back in and adjust this. I'm going to put this as relative. Okay. Okay. As you can see, I'm rusty. I only just downloaded Gamemaker again after like 7 years since the last time I used it. Now, every time I click it, it's going to jump in a diagonal line, 10 pixels on the x-axis and 10 pixels on the y-axis. Not much of a game, but just a way of showing movement. Let's close it down again. And just to make it Very clear. Let's go into it again. Let's do the opposite. Let's do a right button click where we jump the other way. Add events, mouse, right button, drag in a jump, and say -10 and -10, self, relative, okay. When I choose relative here, it's going to be relative to the position that the object, the player, is already in. Let's play it again. So, one click with the left mouse button, one click with the right mouse button. And still the A key will make it move. So that's very shortly what that is about. In the rooms, of course, when you do a game, you want something pretty on the backdrop. And you have something here called backgrounds. If I click the background when I'm in the room, you will have an option to either choose a background if you made one, or you can just draw a background color. Yeah, I think it's pretty cool too, Welshie. There's a lot to play around with in this one. So right now I'm just gonna say draw background color, click on the color, and then choose something non-offensive. Okay, there we go. Makes everything easier to see when you have a background color. So once again, that's what it's going to draw when I play the game. And we click it and it moves just like before. So everything is still the way it was, we just added a background color. So backgrounds, you can make them or you can just make background colors. If you don't feel that safe about doing graphics in the beginning, just do a background color and make sure that the objects you place on the background color matches that one. Besides the object player, you are going to need something else. You are going to need something for people to jump on. So you will make another object for jumping on a platform, and that can be a steady platform, a moving platform. You all know the different options from the different games. But very shortly, sprites, objects, rooms, those are the basics you need for your game. So that was like a basic introduction to Gamemaker and how little of it you need to work with in the beginning if you haven't worked with this before. So let's close down Gamemaker for a second. Let's save what we have, save as, make sure it goes into the right folder, and OK. Do you want to overwrite? Yeah, sure, let's do that. And then we close it down. And now we are coming to graphics part. My favorite tool for drawing when I need to do digital drawing is GIMP. GIMP is free. It has most, if not all, of the functionalities of Photoshop. It's just not a very pretty interface. So I'm going to start up GIMP. And I'm going to show how you can work with doing very, very simple player characters. I'm not going to do a preset size when I start this file up. I'm just going to do something that's a decent size to work with. So let's just say 500 times 500, because I can always shrink this down to a decent size. But I want to be sure that I can get some details in there and then see how it works when I size it up and down. So OK for that, 500 times 500. In GIMP, if you want to scroll, you hold down Control and use the mouse wheel. Then you can resize things very easily. You scroll up and down like that. And it starts out with a layer that's simply just white. If you right-click on it, you're going to get a lot of options. One of the important options when you work with this is to make sure that there is an alpha channel. So down here, add alpha channel. Yeah, I know, Toad Coder. I tried Photoshop and I went straight back to GIMP because I'm just more comfortable in an area I know. So alpha, the one I made sure we added here, is what makes things invisible or see-through. So if I grab my eraser up here, make it a decent size and do like this, you will get this nice checkered background. The checkered part is everything that's invisible. So let's just Control C to get back out to where we have our white stuff here. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to start out by adding another layer. The white one here, I'm really only going to use this for a background so I can see what I'm doing. So layer, new layer, same size, but I'm choosing transparency because I want to be see-through. So say OK. If I go into the Layers tab in GIMP now, I'll have a layer up here that's all checkered because it's all see-through, and I'll have my background. This tiny eye is how I know whether or not it is visible right now. Right now I have my background visible, I'm in my transparent layer, and I want to work with that. Let's just go out of that one. So the egg that I had as a character sprite is very simple to make. There are these tools in almost every drawing program, your square and your ellipses, and I'm going to use the ellipses. So I'm going to choose that one. I'm going to go into my color picker, and I'm going to choose a color for the character I'm going to make. I'm going to choose something that's slightly off-white, so it's visible against the white backdrop while I work with it. I'm going to say OK, make sure my ellipsis tool is checked, and then I'm simply going to drag an ellipsis until it looks like an egg. When I let go, I can move it around as I want to. Right now it's really just a selected area. I'm going to use my bucket, and I'm just going to bucket fill this area like that. Is Anders drinking Faxe or something, or beer? He's drinking a Diet Coke at the moment because we had some left over. I would prefer Faxe Condi if it was me. You can see now, if I move it, I'm going to move the entire layer. If I remove the background, I only have my egg color here. Now it's important to go up in the selection menu and make sure that you select none, because otherwise that ellipsis you dragged out is just going to stay there. If you want, we're going to do a side view of a character, but since some of you might want to use this for how to make an easy character for a more RPG style game, where the character also can move up and down, I'm going to do a frontal layer, and then I'm going to turn it around and do a sideways layer. So this is my shell. I want to be able to look out of this shell. So I'm going to choose my lasso tool up here, because with this one I can just do some points like this. I'm going to do it like an egg that's cracking. So pretty random, up and down like this. If I'm not quite happy with it, I can just redo it, or I can let's just select none. As you can see, there's a tiny box or circle up here. I can use that to move the point if I'm not happy about where I placed it. So I'm just going to place it once again, a bit up, a bit down, to the edge of the egg. When I choose the circle that I started with, I won't be able to move the points anymore. So if you want to move any of them, make sure that you do it now. So I go in here, I have my entire selection, I'm in the right layer, and all I'm going to do now is I'm going to push my delete button. And I'm going to unselect, select none. This is my egg. It's slightly cracked, and behind here somewhere I want some eyes. I'm going to do them in a separate layer, and this is because I want to be able to use this for animation. This is not just going to be a still image that always looks the same way. I want to, in my game, be able to make frames for animations. And to do that, it's easiest to make different parts on different layers. Was I deep, or was someone else deep, Astral? If I was deep, please tell me. So, new layer. And I'm just gonna let it be the size it is from the beginning. I'm gonna let it be transparent like it is here. I'm gonna say okay. Then I'm gonna choose my ellipses tool again. And I'm gonna drag out an ellipses like this and move it a bit. This is gonna be my eye. And you can see this happens in the new layer. So I've got my ellipses, and like before, I go in and I pick my color. I want a white one, so here I can really just push this arrow and it'll reverse the two colors and I get the white here. I choose my bucket tool. There we go. And I fill in the white. There we go. Then I'm going to say okay, because I don't need that. And I'm going to select none. So I have this one now. I'm gonna make sure the layer here is selected. I'm going to go to my layer. And then down here there's a function called auto crop. When I push auto crop, it's going to take the layer that before was the same size as the entire image, and it's going to shrink it until they meet the edges of what you've done. So right now you've got a smaller layer here. This makes it easier to copy it without all the layers being on top of each other, so they can conflict when you drag stuff around. So right now, if I choose my movement, I can drag this one around. But I want two eyes, so the second thing I'm going to do here is I'm going to Control C to copy, Control V to paste, and then I'm going to move. Oh, I have to make sure. 1 second. Floated selection to new layer. There we go. Now you have two eyes. You can move separately, independently. This could be useful for certain kinds of animations, but I know that what I want to do, I want both of these eyes to move at the same time. So if one moves to the side, I want the other to follow it over there. So right now I'm going to choose the top layer, right click it, and then I'm going to go in here in the merge down function, and it's going to merge this layer with the layer that's just beneath it. That way both the eyes are in the same layer. I'm going to double click here so I can change the text, and I'm going to write eyes. There we go. I'm going to double click this one, and I'm going to call it body. Because shell or not, this would be the body. Oh yes, please, if you haven't followed Shaded Areas, go follow Shaded Areas. He does awesome artwork. And if you need tips and tricks on how to do graphics the old school way, he's one of the best streamers I know in that area. He's a great teacher. So, eyes there, and I'm going to make sure that I can make it look cross-eyed and all other kinds of stuff by putting in some irises. So, new layer, once again, as you can see, it's pretty much rinse and repeat a lot of these functions. New layer, same size in the beginning, transparency, check, okay. Once again, my ellipses tool, do something that would look like a pretty decent iris here, like that. Place it, well, anywhere you want, but try to go for about the center of the eye in the beginning. Then you're going to choose your bucket tool to make sure that's there, and then pick a color for the eyes. I'm going to do blue eyes. Purple. I know someone who loves purple. Let's do purple. Okay, bucket tool selected. Fill in there. Got your purple. Select none, layer, auto crop, so you got a tiny layer once again. Grab the layer, Control C, Control V. Make sure that this one that says floating selection, pasted layer, right click it and make sure you make it to a new layer. Then you grab your movement part tool here and then you move this one over here. Now you have two irises. This is a good way to make sure that everything is about the same size. Several people actually, but yes, benighted and purple is one of the things. So right now you've got this and this. So to make it look like even more like an eye, we need the black dot in the middle. So let's go in here. Let's just draw that on top of the iris in the same layer. So make sure that the iris layer is merged down, so both your irises in the same layer. Merge down, there you go. And you can see now it's the same layer, so if I move it, it will be looking to the side, or looking up, or looking down. So this is a pretty easy tool to use for animation. So, ellipsis tool again, the layer with the irises. Let's just double click that one and make sure that is named iris, not irises. And ellipses tool, and let's go in here and make one of those. There we go. I'm gonna click these tiny squares down here because those two will always be the black and white option, so no matter what color I selected, I can go straight back to black and white. Black, yes, fine. Bucket tool there, bucket tool there. Now, since this is going to be in the same layer, and I already have selected the area with the black, right now you can see it's selected. If it wasn't selected, I wouldn't be able to choose the none function. And there's like a tiny dotted line moving around down here. So, Control C for copy, Control V for paste. Take that one to a new layer, grab it and move it, place it like that, and make sure that you merge it down so you have everything in the same layer. So in this layer, if we move it down now, you very clearly have a character. So using the ellipsis tool to make things look alive is one of the easiest ways to do it. Because we have something in our brain that if you put eyes on anything, it will put character to it. Some of you might have seen one of the many places where people put googly eyes on different stuff, and it's funny every time because it makes stuff look alive. So that's the exact same brain function we're using here to make us recognize that this is most definitely a person, or at least a creature. Let's see, did I miss something in chat? I'm so focused. Give me a second to catch up. Oh, patience. Yeah, having the patience for doing all these different kinds of things. Let me say right away, if you don't have the patience for doing graphic, don't do graphic. Find someone who knows how. There are plenty of artists out there that you can contact and talk to, and some of them will be obliged to helping you out with stuff like this. Maybe you'll need to pay them, which is a good idea. Always pay your artists if you have the chance. They don't artists have a tough enough time. But you can get a lot of free art and you can get a lot of free animations. If you go out on Google and search for sprites, there will be arcs of sprites made ready to do animation with. So let's finish this one up. I'm gonna go in and say it's a pretty weird thing here that it's see-through here, so I need some kind of shadow inside this egg. So I'm going to go down here below the body because it's going to have to be covered by this, and I'm going to mark this. I'm going to say layer, new layer, and this time I'm going to choose white. No, wait a second, I'm just going to choose transparency, like that. Then I'm going to take my ellipses tools once again, drag a fitting size, that. Drag these so you can resize it, so you cover this area. I'll make it slightly smaller than this. Grab my pretty little black and my bucket tool and fill in the bucket. Select none, and now you have this. Something is inside this egg. Yeah, that's the thing about it, Astral. If you want something to be original, if you Google and you take a sprite someone else have made, you're pretty sure gonna run into a game where someone else is using them too. But it might be possible for you to team up with an artist who is actually interested in doing games and won't do it for the work experience, but will do it for perhaps a percentage of what you're gonna earn when the game is done. And honestly, you should respect the people doing the art enough to be aware that of course they should be paid for it too. I want these to be a bit more lively, so I'm gonna grab my ellipsis tool again, go up into the iris, gonna drag a tiny ellipsis here, gonna reverse these two, and I'm gonna put some white in it. There we go. And I'm just gonna do this a bit like this, same one there. On the iris, put some white in it. Make sure I have my bucket tool. There we go. Go back to select none. And then I'm going to go into this layer so we don't have this square from this layer to look at. So, like this. Let's see. Yeah, you can tweak public domain sprites. You can go in and you can add details to them if you load them into a program. And yes, Astral, there is work in it. There's always work in it. It's hard to get out of that one. If you want to make something from scratch, you have to actually make it from scratch. So there's no easy way out of that. There are ways that are easier than others. And this is one of the easier ways, because what you do is actually going to be original and your own thing. And when you scroll it down to the size you're going to have in, for instance, a platform game, there are a limit to how many details can be in it. So you don't have to do something that is highly detailed. So these simple figures, they do work. And as you know from using emotes and icons, there's a lot of very, very, very simple things that has a big effect on people. A simple smiley, it works, it does. Now I have my basic character. If I want to do this as one frame, this is one picture, it's bright, I would just go in here, make sure the background layer here, that I have this hidden away, so this all is transparent and I can only see these layers. Then I'm going to say File, I'm going to say Export to, and then I'm going to figure out where to put it. And I like to put it somewhere close to where I'm going to use it. So in this case it's going to be in my Gamemaker folder, in my folder named Platforms, in my folder named Images. So you already have something here, egg left, egg right, these are the old ones. I'm going to call this one Player. Underscore, egg, underscore, front. The front part is because you want to be able to differentiate between your sprites when you have them in your folder. If you want your character to look like it's moving in more than one direction, you're going to have a left, you're going to have a right, an up, a down, maybe a jumping, a falling. So all these should have a separate name. Right now they're just still frames, but let's save this one. It gives me a lot of different options when I choose export as a PNG. The things that I'm really interested in here is not the comments or the creation time. I want the resolution to be the same. I want color values from transparent pictures. And if there's a background color, I want to save that one as well. Push this one all the way up and just export. So now if I close this one down, I did that without saving. That was slightly stupid. Oh, okay. But the point was, now if I want to open the one I was working with, I can just do this and have the one layer. Now I don't have all my layers here, you can see there's just one layer, the PNG layer, that is the one I'm going to use if I create a sprite. Now, the animation part that I just botched by not saving. Let's do that again. I'll do this really quickly without explaining everything underways. New. Okay. There we go. Good. Make sure you make room for the eyes. Slightly smaller than last time, but that'll work. This is the charm of live streaming. That's when we botch things up in the process. Let's see what's What is asked? Someone asked me something? I'm in Denmark, yes. Happy Scandinavian. Yay. I'll just make sure I get this one done quickly, so you don't have to look at me do this for too long. There we go. Move that one over there. I'm gonna turn this one off a bit because I have to remember that this is not actually black, that's just from my background. Well, it's all practice, as most of you know. When we do stuff like this, the faster you do stuff is usually because you've practiced it a lot, and I tend to fiddle around with GIMP quite a bit because I like doing graphics. But I also like doing simple stuff like this, and it can be more challenging sometimes to do a nice simple graphic than doing a really complicated one, because as soon as you make it complicated, some of your stuff might, your errors might disappear into the complication. But with this, well, your error is going to show, so making it usable takes a bit more practice. "17 people. Well, it's a good thing I'm not looking at that too much. I'd just be self-conscious. A big-eyed bat. How cute. Yeah, it's kind of like that. You can make a bat too. That's not that hard either if you use these tools. I always say that if you're not used to drawing, this lasso tool is excellent because you can do like the line you want, and then you can just move the points around until you get it the way you want it. Oh no, never give your admin password away to someone like your students. I would never do that. Don't trust students. That is something you need to learn if you're going to be a teacher. You may love them, but you may not trust them. So, this one, merge down. This layer is my irises. This layer is my eyes, and if I don't remember to press enter, the name won't stick. Like that. This one is my body. And I'm going to do the shadow background layer as well, and then we're back at where we were before. Transparency, okay. There we go. Make it black, like that. Select none. And there we are once again. So, for a very, very simple animation, we could do, let's see, we want to take this picture here, and we want to keep that. So I'm going to the top here, and I'm going to go, let's close the one behind it down there, because that one went weird. I'm going to go into my layers here, and then we are going to choose the option that says New from Visible. It's going to make one layer that combines everything in the layers that are visible at the moment. So when I click that one, what I get is basically the same thing as the PNG I had before. Everything put together in one layer. So if I turn it off, there's nothing, and then I can turn all these layers below and it would be the same as if this one was turned on. Yeah, you could do that. It would be a way to preserve the same style, Toadcoder. So if you want to make sure that all your characters fit together, you can do one set of eyes, and then you can, with layers, just reuse those eyes for different characters. That way you're going to have a very certain style that goes through everything. This here, if I want to do an animation, I don't know if you remember in Gamemaker. Let's start that one up again. Gamemaker, there we go. In Gamemaker, when you create a sprite and you go into Edit Sprite, there is the option to make it from a strip. So what we're going to do now is we're going to take this and turn it into a very short animation strip. Actually, it's going to be so short that there's only going to be 2 frames. So let's start out by doing that. We are going to open, and we're going to browse to where we have our project. There we go. Images, platform game. Now when I load the game, the thing I'm loading is this, the platform project GMX file. This is the only thing that will load this into Gamemaker. So open the GMX file. Slight delay. It's because I'm running so many things at the same time. Well, I like the idea about an egg because it could be anything inside of an egg, and if you don't know what it's going to be later, well, it's just a good placeholder graphic. Platform game, open, there we go, hopefully, and open. If we go back in here into sprites, and we choose the sprite we already have here, and I go into Edit Sprite. In File, there's this option, Create from Strip, and what it's creating from is like a movie strip. So what we're going to do is we are going to make 2 pictures next to each other in the same image, and we are going to make Gamemaker treat that as a movie strip. So let's close this one down again. Okay, back to this one. So I have this top image, and I want one where there's a movement in it. So actually, I think I'm going to just do this. I'm going to say duplicate layer. That means I can move all the rest of these. This layer is the same as this layer. They are exact copies, of course. I'm going to call this one egg up, and I am going to call this one egg down. Then I'm going to make a new layer, and before the ones I've worked with before in this one is 500 wide and 500 high. I know I'm going to use double the space here. So I'm going to say, okay, I'm going to double the width on this layer. I'm going to make it transparent because I'm going to make it white. That's easier. There we go. I'm going to drag this layer down above the background so it's in the bottom of everything. And now if I scroll out, I get this. One image here and an empty space over here. Then I'm going to turn up my second layer here, and I am going to drag it over here, like that. Apparently, I did not copy that one. I must have marked something wrong when I did it. Let's do that one again. Delete that layer, take that layer, duplicate that layer, there we go. Not egg down copy, egg up. No. Mark that one. That one is visible. Drag that to the edge of the invisible layer. Right now, my image is still only 500 times 500. So I'm going to go into the image and I'm going to say fit canvas to layers, like that. And then I have these two layers. Now this one is the one called egg down. Turn that one on and off, and the egg up, I can turn that one on and off. So I'm going to grab the one called egg down, mark that one, make sure I have my movement tool, and then I'm going to move it slightly downwards. Then I'm going to take the one that's egg up, make sure I mark the layer, movement tool, and drag that one slightly upwards to the edge there. Now I have a difference here, and that should be enough so to show you. Yeah, I'm expanding the canvas size too, but I don't do that usually before I've dragged things over there, because I just mark the layer with the right size. It will automatically start at the same edge and then expand out that way. And then when I drag this one out there, I'll drag it to the right edge. So what order you do it in is not really that important, just that that's what you're doing. So we've got these two, and I'm going to do what I did before when I made this image. I'm going to say I'm going to need a new image, and it's going to be a new layer, and it's going to be new from visible. So new from visible, let's remove those. Now I have one layer with both these images in. I am going to go and export this picture. And when I choose export as PNG, it will only grab the visible things. It won't grab anything that I haven't turned on. So let's go in and say export. I'm in the right folder, and I'm going to call this one egg up down. Make sure I have the right thing saved here, and export. And this time I'm just going to put this into the margin like that. I am going to open my Gamemaker again, close this little thing up, and I'm going to say, okay, I have a sprite in here. Yes, I'm going to open that sprite, and I'm going to edit the sprite. I'm going to say create from strip, because now we're doing animation. Now we are not just doing an image or a simple sprite. I have a lot of different options from old stuff I made, but I don't really want the old stuff. I want to go into my platform, my images, and I want to grab this one, egg up down. Open this one. Now it loads all this, because what it wants to know is how many images per row. Well, right now images per row is 2, and there's only one row, so I don't have to worry more about that. Image width. Right now we're working with a pretty big image. So right now let's just set it to what we had it at. Let's set it to 500 for the width and 500 for the height, because it's really 2 images in one strip. Let's try to see what happens when we do that. Nothing is happening right now, so there's something I still need to do. So go back into Edit, File, Create from Strip. Yes, yes, that's fine. We want to use the same one. Open. Horizontal, cell, offset. What it's asking is, oh, image width. There we go. It's going to be horizontal cell offset 500 and vertical cell offset 500. Let's see if I can see. If I open this one up, I can see if I've done it right. Well. Charge, images per row, number of images, 2. Well, it worked the last time. Let me just go into an old one and see what I did wrong here. 1 second. I'm glad this is a live stream and not a real tutorial. No. I did this earlier today, so it's not that I haven't done it before, it's just that I'm forgetful like in hell and I just drank some beer. So, File, Open Project, go back to one I'm working on or have been working on. I think that's the one. There we go. It's a simple movement. Load. Takes a little bit of while. 1 second. There we go. Clear. Walk. There we go. Must be this one. Edit sprite. Yeah, there we go. Now let's go in and see what I did here. Create from strip. So let's just do an edit. One, 2, 3. Here, file. Well, I'm mucking this one up. All right. What are anyone else saying? Does that need to be 2? Well, let's test it out and see how we do this. You can see this is a very simple walking animation. Animation? Nope. I knew I made it from this one. Let's see. Let's do new sprite. Sprite. Load sprite. Oh, not load sprite. Edit sprite. File. Create from strip. Because it usually saves my presets in here. Yeah, there we go. 2, 2. Oh, it just saved that one. That wasn't so good. Oh well, I'm gonna have to go back to that later. But the point is, you do a setup of the images, and when you do it right, tiny lines will appear that will show you the different images in the strip. But yeah, let me get back to you with that because I have. It's not feeding time yet, Sazu. They are only supposed to be fed at the right feeding time, otherwise my poor red kitty is going to be way too fat. He's been that before, and even though some think that's cute when you have a fat cat, it's not really that good for the cat. So, but I am going to, let's get this one camera back online. There we went. Yep. What I am going to do is I'm going to take a 5-minute break and go back and look into what the hell I did last time I did this, so I can come back and show you this the right way, because right now I'm really just mucking about. But again, this shows that if you don't mind making mistakes, you will actually get something done whether it works or not. Anders has a command too? What's his command? Hi Anders. Oh, how cute. Okay, I am going to close the stream for 5-10 minutes. Then I'm gonna pour myself some coffee, look into what the hell I did the last time I did this, and then come back and then show it properly. Properly, not probably. For sure, I'm gonna come back and show you this. So that's the entire purpose of this stream today, is to make sure that you get a chance to see this. So it would be a bit of a letdown for me if I don't get this to work again. Yeah, exactly, Finley. You have to be able to do a lot of errors. And I could do tutorials, but that would require that I did it perfect every time, or that I cut everything up and cut all my errors out. I'm not interested in doing that. So I'm gonna take a 10-minute break, then I'll be back again, and if you are still here, you will get to see the simple animation. So that will be at, let's say, in 10 minutes. That's gonna be 9:37 here. So be right back.